Hi DSC, how are you doing? 15 years ago, seems like a long time. I was an electrical engineer. This was my first job. And my first manager, Heather, her name was, I remember. I went to have a career conversation with her. Have you heard of the term career conversation? Yes? It was a long time ago and I had no idea what a career conversation is. So I went there and I said, Heather, tell me what should my career be like? What's your career like? And I still remember something she told me. She said, and it still stays with me. She said, every career is like a snowflake, Vaishali. Your career will be very different from mine. That same thing I want to tell you today. You will all have different careers. Some of you will have careers like mountaineering. Some of you will climb mountains, which means that it will be difficult, but you will reach great heights. Some of you might explore the woods, which means you might discover a lot of things and have a lot of fun along the way. Nonetheless, I realized that there's no career guidance. Nobody can guide you in your career, but there are career perspectives. And that is why, before we wrap up the day, I want you to meet 3 such amazing people who've had different careers. Some in the field that you will pursue, some not in the field that you will pursue. Let's hear from them and get you a little bit of career perspective. First, familiar name, Mr. Anson Ben. You know Anson already. You've had a great session with him in the morning. That was very engaging, right? Ready to hear about his career, his thoughts, his guidance? Oh, yes. Let me tell you a little bit more about him before we do that. He has a breadth of experience spanning over 18 years across the globe. And this includes executive coaching, training, running large-scale operations, corporate quality consulting, and culture for companies within and outside the Fortune 500, like Barclays, ANZ, HSBC, InMobi, Inc., and more. One very interesting fact is, he was the architect behind InMobi's culture code called, Yavio? Yavio. And InMobi is known to have one of the best corporate cultures in the world, one of the best in the country, in the country. So he's the architect behind that. He was also executive director for Inc., which brought TED to India. A little bit of his brilliance you saw on stage already. Currently, he is the executive coach to CEOs and senior execs. He's a trainer, he's a storyteller, and he just finished a major project on a coffee table book for InMobi, which is a collection of short stories for InMobians and InMobi depicting their 10-year journeys. Please give a huge round of applause to Anson Ben. And next up, you'll also love this dignitary. Please welcome Ms. Shikha Gupta. Shikha is the product lead at Udacity. She has close to 10 years experience across online product management, marketing, and management consulting. She has 6 years of experience specifically in the online product management space. Currently, she is the leading web and mobile product for the web and mobile product for the India region of Udacity. She has previously worked with Make My Trip across 4 different products on both web and mobile platforms. So you should definitely be in her good books, don't you think? Definitely. She has done her MBA from ISB Hyderabad, and she has a BE in Information Technology from Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology, Delhi. And finally, next up on stage, we have Mr. Arjun Pratap, CEO and founder of Edge Networks. Hi, Arjun, welcome. Arjun is the founder and CEO at Edge Networks. Edge Networks has the vision to build future-focused HR technology solutions focused on helping organizations solve their toughest talent acquisition and workforce optimization challenges. He's a published author and speaker in India. Prior to Edge Networks, he's worked with organizations such as Speed Era Networks and Akamai Technologies, where he was responsible for building India and international businesses. He also headed the sales function at Dexler Information Solutions to provide strategic direction in building the company. He holds a postgraduate degree in Information Systems and International Business from the University of Sydney, Australia. Please welcome Mr. Arjun Pratap. So we'll go into the serious part of the conversation. Hear up, you guys. We'll start with Anson. Anson, tell us, we are a young generation, and by we, I don't mean us, we in general.
We also.
We also, young at heart generation. And we know it's an age of media blitz, and we have this information overload. All of us are on social media, and we have news channels bombarding at us information at any point. And if you have to take a decision, there's so much information out there. In this age, how does one hone and retain one's own individuality and one's own perspective and hold our own ground, be authentic?
You know, that's a very difficult question, and so the answer is not easy either. And I think a couple of things that we need to do is first, when there is an information overload, the first thing is just stop the overload. We need to know when to stop. You know, I'm way older than you all, and I still am not able to get onto Facebook and get off in 5 minutes. If I see there's just this one video I need to watch, I've never been able to do that. So I don't go onto Facebook. I think I go once in 2 months if I have to. So I think there's a time where you need to know I have to stop. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, I think, this might sound really cliched, but I have realized it's so important. And that is, you've got to know who you are. You've got to be able to figure that one out. Now, it's never too early to do that exercise to really figure out who you are, and it's never too late to start. And so when you know who you really are, and you know what are the values that are going to drive you, you will be able to take decisions based on your values. It might sound cliched, it might sound very theoretical, but really it works. And another thing which I learned in B school was this, one of my professors taught me, it really stuck with me. She said, majority is never right. And we've always grown in this, in this mentality saying that, if more people are saying it, it might be right. But what we've learned is, it's more often than not, it's the smaller group that's probably right. So there are some things that you need to know. If you really can stay with your values and not get swayed by what's the majority is saying, I think it just helps in some form. So I think that's what we need to do.
And it won't always be easy, because if there is a crowd that's saying, it's the wisdom of the crowd, but as it can be a trap as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So stay true to yourself, guys. That's what Anson is telling us to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Shikha, we'll talk a little bit about skill sets now. This group is naturally very excited about everything to do with tech and mobile and the web, and these are platforms that are similar to you at Udacity. Are there any obvious skill sets or any trends currently that you think our generation should have, this particular group should have, to make great careers for themselves in that space?
I think first and foremost, you have to be a problem solver and be analytical. I would rate that even above having solid tech skills. So I've personally enjoyed working with those developers who could question me back, not just implementing what I was telling them, but also asking questions, relevant questions, and analyzing before just going ahead with the execution. So I think being a problem solver really helps. And that also brings different perspectives to the table. Otherwise, it's always a unidirectional implementation that you're doing. So from that perspective, these two skills, and obviously the web development and the mobile development skills, I wouldn't really go into details. I think that is all out there. Those skills are important. But there's a third aspect which I would say is important now, which is from a very future-looking perspective, which is also knowing more about, say, machine learning, AI, stuff which is emerging and which will have implication on both mobile and web development. So mobile and web development will always remain the way to talk to the end users. But then what goes on behind? There's a lot of machine learning, AI stuff which is powering our web and mobile applications. So I think not maybe having complete a specialization in these areas, but then being up to date with what is happening and having a general understanding of that is something which will really give a lot of leverage to the developers.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll come to AI and machine learning in a minute, but I also want to mention, you said the art of asking questions is important in interviews that you've taken there. And you also mentioned that it's important to ask the tough questions. It's important to have the unpopular opinion sometimes. At Google also, we have something like this. We always look for people who question the status quo, who won't simply take it for what it is and will question how it is done, and that will lead to how it can be done better. So I think a trend of courage is definitely emerging in what both of you said. Now to HR and machine learning. Edge Networks, Arjun, is at the cutting edge of HR automation. Are there any trends that you have noticed in the type of skill sets that, let's say, the talent industry or the recruiters or hiring managers are looking for when they come to you for solutions on HR automation?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. So one is that I'm just coming fresh off Prime Minister Modi launching the Future Skills platform at NASSCOM, right? The Leadership Forum, and the whole thing is about 55 new job roles that are very relevant to
Arjun,
India
I don't
today.
think they would have known about future skills if you want to give
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. So the thing is that, and I think I'll give you a bit of background to help all of us understand it. We are going through a digital transformation as a country, right? And the biggest evolver in that is the IT services industry, who's trying to keep pace with the new demands that their customers have. So the Ubers, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world are defining new technologies, and companies like Citibank and Barclays and Halliburton are adopting these technologies. So from the banking industry to the oil industry, new technologies are being used to develop new platforms that need to be serviced by a lot of technology companies in India to maintain and manage these companies' technology infrastructure. Now, those technologies are so new for us, so you can think of DevOps, you can think of UI UX design, you can think of software developers looking different now because you're talking about full stack engineer, right? You're talking about a mean stack engineer. And what does that mean in terms of a competency framework to develop? So you have one sort of word that's beaten to death, which is AI. And you have machine learning, where you have a demand right now of 4,000 professionals that are required, and we don't have them. Right? It is alarming at a level where we have so much talent, but we have to keep the pace. And that's where I think we as a company, because the job that we do is we provide an AI-based technology platform to match people to jobs internally to these services companies. So we're reallocating people within the business with competency frameworks that are dynamic, so we understand what a full stack engineer is, what a mean stack engineer is, what Node.js and AngularJS is, how it's trending. So we have like a hype cycle. So we know certain skills that are continuing to be popular, like Java, JavaScript, and SQL. We have uptrending skills like PHP, Python, and Node.js. We have frameworks that are very, very popular in terms of usage, like Node.js and AngularJS. But you also have shrinking demand for C hash and C. Right? You have databases that are still popular, like MySQL and SQL Server, and you have NoSQL databases like Cassandra and MongoDB. Right? We see that, and we provide this information to these customers to see uptrending, mid-trending, and downtrending skills. And the reason why we're doing this, so that we can connect to, say, Udacity or content providers like Udacity, which are Coursera and Udemy and Google Books and Canvas, and make sure that people like you learn what's relevant based on what you're interested in, right? So connecting the dots is about transformation also of talent to what's relevant. And I think that's where we're playing it. And that's about future skills. And what NASSCOM is trying to do is to build a platform that people can learn through these future skills that are required by the industry and connect the dots in terms of learning. So they're able to get a job, they're able to be gainful at that moment in time that they want to be gainful. And as soon as you want to get a job, I'm sure that portal is going to be open for consumption. So that's what we think, and we're sort of monitoring these skills day in and day out to be relevant also in terms of matching people to jobs.
That is so powerful, I think. Nobody now is going to sit down and make a list of competencies or skill sets every year Gone are those days. Now, artificial intelligence will tell us, machine learning will then pick those up and tell us what are the trends that are so relevant, may not have been relevant last year, relevant this year, and that is the sort of industry that you will be stepping into. Thank you for that, Arjun. Let's see, can I see a show of hands if you have questions right now for any of the panelists? Just a show of hands for now. Okay, one. That's it? Okay, so then we'll do a round of questions and then open out to questions. Is that okay? Anson, we spoke a little bit about technical skills and what is the gap that we want to bridge between a career that you want and what the industry needs at this point in time. Tell us, what is your overall advice to a current day student who wants to bridge this gap? So a career that I want for myself as a student and something that the industry wants currently in this day and age. How should I keep myself relevant? What is your, it's not working? What's your advice to current day students?
So, I mean, I think one of the most important things is to, I mean, I think one of the most important needs for young people is exposure. And, you know, from all the conversations I've had with hundreds of, and I think thousands of students now, one of the biggest things they say is, I lack confidence, I lack confidence. But the issue is not really confidence, the issue is exposure. If you're exposed to a lot of things, your confidence automatically goes. You cannot just build confidence, you know what I mean? So you got to get exposed to different things. So therefore, I think what's important is to just go out, and one of the things I would strongly recommend is don't just go and work for money. You know, just go work for free, but work with one of the best people in the country or in that industry. You know, just find who's the best and go and say, sir, ma'am, can I work for free? I'll come and do something for free. A lot of people who go there and with that passion, they end up working for those people for money later. So find who those people are. You know, and now I understand that there are some people who might really need the money right after you pass out. You might need to support your parents, whatever. But even in that case, don't choose between which is going to pay me more and which is going to pay me less. Just choose, because you're young right now, choose what is just enough to get you by, and then figure out what's going to really catapult you forward. So that's one of the things I would say. And then when you're, right now you're not working, I would just say, just go and be involved in so many different groups that's possible. You know, there are meetups, there are, you know, don't, just because you're an engineer, don't just go and be involved in engineering meetups or, you know, engineering startups. No, I mean, go and find out what's happening in art. Go and find out what's happening in design. Go and find out what's happening in sports, because that's what makes you a wholesome individual. Because I guarantee, I don't know, there are so many people who have said that creativity is not you know, some skill. It's just connecting unconnected dots. You bring two unconnected things and you bring them together, creativity happens. And your best ideas will happen when you can take two things which are not normally connected and you bring them together. So if you're an engineer and you love something and you go and figure out what's happening in sports, you go and figure out what's happening in biotech or, you know, art, you might find a great idea that as an engineer you can bring into the world of art. And there you have your next startup idea. So don't just get stuck to that area. Right now, go wide and then go deep later. I mean, that's one of the things I would say. Yeah.
I'll get a few thoughts from both of you also on this. Do you agree? Do you feel this is also something that employers are looking for in the industry currently?
So, in my opinion, just to jump in there, because I'm very, very, you know, I graduated in commerce, right? I did a bachelor's in commerce, right? And I worked in a music production company, which is not there in that. Then
it was conveniently left out.
Yeah, but those are the interesting parts which I can tell you about. I worked in a grocery store, right? I worked 7 days a week for an entire year, right? Which meant that no days off. I worked in a grocery store, I worked in a clothes store, and I worked in an IT company, right? This kind of exposed me to a lot of things, different things with different people, because I was working weekends, I was working nights, and I was working during the day. And I was doing 3 different types of jobs that really drove me nuts, but was a fantastic, you know, foundation for me to understand what I wanted to do, because I was meeting different kinds of people, right? One of the things that I urge you to sort of think about is authenticity, right? Just be authentic about what you want. And that goes back to what you were saying about, being real about what job you choose and not using money as a criteria. Money is important, right? It's just heart, wallet, and mind, and I learned this at Google. And wallet can be the most important, right? But you got to have heart and mind involved in it. You've got to make that as part of your decision-making criteria to say, is this what I want to do? And when you're defining it, and I can tell you when I was doing those 3 jobs, it was primarily wallet, but because I had to pay my bills, right? I had to pay, rent and electricity and food and clothes and all of that at the same time. So I didn't know what I was doing. It was like a spinning wheel. But you know what? From a work ethic standpoint, from being at work at 9 o'clock in the morning and finishing up at 3 a.m. sometimes, it just made me a lot more solid about what I wanted to do. It made me discover myself. It made me appreciate what my calling was. I worked in startups and I had a choice in my first startup to be part of a management buyout within a year and a half of that. And I was just fresh out of college, right? I chose not to because I just couldn't handle the insecurity of being an employer, buying that company, and I wouldn't have a salary or I would have nothing or a minimum salary. I just couldn't handle it. So I said, I'll be an employee. So that's not wrong, right? You have to understand that there's a school environment of saying, start up and be an entrepreneur and do all of that. There's a lot of pain there that one has to go through, right? There's a lot of craziness that you have to go through. And you need to understand there are different things for different people. And choose wisely. Think about these things. Speak to peers, speak to mentors. Have a mentor ecosystem. And I think talking to people that can leverage their experience back into your path is going to be very, very defining for you guys. So these are my 2 cents. More than 2 cents, but you can go.
I think iteration is also important. So, there's a lot of importance around choosing your path, that one path which will lead you somewhere. It should be okay to change that path somewhere if you feel that this is not your calling, or when you experiment with something else and you find it more interesting. So it should be just okay to leave behind what you've already done and get started on the other one. So that escalation of commitment kind of a bias should not be there. Be courageous enough to try anything new that might interest you. So keep experimenting and trying to figure out what is good for you. There's no one single path. There might not be one single path. There might be multiple things you might want to do.
Awesome. And in the spirit of experimentation, all of you mentioned this. And in the presentations from the morning today, I remember this group has plans to help anyone from panwalas to putting somebody on the moon, right? Where is Shaujanya? Is he here? Hi. So you have a lot of big plans. Shikha, let's stay with you for a bit. Tell us this. As a student community, as you're stepping into a corporate world or a business world or into the industry in general, how do you carve a space out for yourself? What is it that as students currently, this group can give back to the community? Maybe a small business owner, maybe an astronaut. Why should a small business owner listen to today's student community? What sort of skill sets do they bring to the table, or what do they bring to the table, you think?
So I think at the end of the day, each one of us are either trying to solve a problem or trying to fulfill a need. And whenever a developer tries to work on something, eventually that is what you're working on. So when what these small business owners or people out there might value in you is your capability to understand their problem, relate to their problem, and then devise a solution to that problem. So I think as individuals, we are quite fixated with glorifying whatever we know. We somehow feel that if we are developers, then the app or the website that we generate is an end. But we have to understand that is a means to an end and not really the end. And that is true for, say, a small business owner as well. For them, tech will solve a problem. The tech itself is not what is important. Eventually, what solution it will bring to them is what is important. So you have to just relate to their problems better. You have to understand their need better. That should be a conversation starter and icebreaker when you approach them. It shouldn't be that, oh, I'll build something which will solve your problem. The conversation should start with what is the problem that you're trying to solve for, or what is the need that you face as of now, and then work towards a solution from there. The solution might not be tech-enabled at all. It might be just a change in the process or the way the small business owner might be doing things. So eventually, the website or the app shouldn't be the end. You should just focus on solving a problem for it. Technology might just be like a coincidental thing to that solution.
So interesting. And it just struck me while you were saying, more and more companies also, no one works in a silo anymore. Right? Even if you're from the tech world or mobile development, you will invariably work with product teams, with sales teams, with other teams that are cross-functional. And a lot of our, I'm sure you know, a lot of our interviewing processes also are evolving for this. A lot of our interviews are cross-functional now. So the need to step out of your own comfort zone and be able to simply communicate with someone that's not from your field, I think is increasingly important. Simplicity is
Exactly. I mean, I end up interviewing all the developers who come as candidates, and the conversations which show that the developers have a product thinking and they have that approach, they are the ones who eventually do make it. So very
and
important.
that'll come only by talking to the customer.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. This is an sort of important one, I think. Let's see, how many of you have your resumes already? Sort of redundant question, but still, let's see hands. Okay, good. How many would appreciate some tips on this? Okay, good. Oh, some of you wouldn't, huh? Great resumes. Arjun, you would have seen 1 or 2 resumes in your career, I'm thinking. Tell us, you've seen so many resumes. Tell us a little bit about how should we, and this is actually good for me also to know from you, but even as a fresher, what should you showcase on your resume? How do you make your resume stand out? It's a fact, by the way, we know that reviewers, when they review resumes, they, on average, look at it for 6 seconds before they make a decision. How do you make your resume stand out and survive the 6 seconds?
I love that statistic. I'm going to use it now. But the thing is that, so we sort of have built an AI-driven, data science-driven tech that can read a resume and read a job description. The difference is reading. So you're using natural language processing algorithms. And to build training, right, so that you have a student and teacher sort of model, we do process of manual labeling also, so you can classify properly. And one of the things that we use as markers, I mean, we have 5 definitive markers, which is demographic information, which could be age correlating to experience, location, industry correlating to company, skills, which is a broad term for a competency, a discipline, a principle, a methodology, a plan, an output, a function, an ability, a trait. Right? You have courses and certifications, which is another marker, and you have occupation, which is a title. Right? Now, you don't have any of that at this point when you're getting out of college, but experiential learning. So how do you demonstrate experiential learning? And this goes back to the conversation that we were just having, saying that can you develop, as you're going through this process, anything that you can put your learning to practice with? And that practice has to translate into your resume. Because that practice is so important and it will stand out when we sort of analyze and pick up what's important. Otherwise, everyone else, it's going to be cookie cutter, right? Just think about it. We're all going to look at the same resume and say, this is a different name, a phone number, an email address, and you're at the same university, probably have the same grades. So what's different? I can't hire all of you. So how do you stand out? Now, stuff that you've done in terms of micro-credentials, and we're developing technology that, yes, we're going to go out and look at a LinkedIn asset. We're going to go out and look at Git and how you have your Git commits. Right? How have you represented yourself there? How clean are you in that world is going to be defining for you, because a lot of other people are very, very good at it or suck at it. Right? Now you need to translate how you're in that world. In Stack Overflow, Behance, whatever the ecosystem that you can develop a micro-credential and translate as more value, so that you're saying that I'm a good designer. I'm great at DevOps or infrastructure, right? I'm a good security guy. right? And that these are much needed skills, but don't do it again for just for the sake of, yeah, this is a job in demand, so I'm going to go out and do that. But more importantly, that I like doing what I'm doing, right? I'm really good at it, and I've developed this credential, but it's not represented in that Word document that I have, right? I haven't even bothered putting it into my LinkedIn profile, but I have it here. How do I pull that out? Right? So I think that's really about representation. Can you pull out enough information that allows people like us to consume better? So that the hiring process at the get-go, remember the top of the funnel is that resume. And we have to go through that, then to drive cross-functional interviews so that for a sales engineering position that we were talking about, my product head will interview, my data science lead will interview. And I can give you this other example since we were talking about it. My CTO, my Chief Technology Officer, one of the finest minds I've met. I didn't get funding for a long time because he was a BA honors. He is a BA honors in literature. Right? He has no tech degree. All his intelligence comes from learning. He spends 2 hours a day reading. Coursera, Udacity, Nano Degrees, all of the stuff. He'll go through it. He's like a speed reader. And he spends 2 hours a day gaming. Right? So, fundamentally, if you're not a gamer, just don't start gaming because that'll make this cool. But
I'm sure most of them are gamers.
yeah. But the thing is, this is representation, right? And I backed him because I've been in many situations where, yeah, like I said, we didn't get funding for a long time. Today we're funded by Kalari and Venturies, grade A guys. My CTO is a BA honors in literature. How am I going to get past that? But he's fantastic. My head of data science joined us as a fresher. My head of data science. You get it? So, perspective is really important in this case. You need to lend that perspective through micro-credentials that you've created in your life so far to develop saying the intent is there, the authenticity is there. I can do this. He didn't join us as a data scientist, I can guarantee you that. But he's developed so well that I put him through, development plans, enforced a lot of learning that has improved his quotient for leadership, that has developed him there, and he's still got tons of, improvement to go there, but that's investment that we'll make as a company, right?
Oh, thank you for that. I'm amazed. I started with just a resume, but this definitely is very multifaceted. No, it means that today our employment, I don't want to call it a resume, but our employment history should be so multifaceted. That's good to know. And thank you for the examples also, really help. Super. We are just at 10 minutes. Oh, there, he's far away. So maybe I can sneak one question in. So very quickly, I'll throw it out to all of you. If you had to go back to this time when you were in college and when you hadn't had job experience yet, when you had to go back to there, is there anything you would do differently? One thing very quickly from each of you that you would do differently or you wish would have been different? Anything? Either.
I think I would make it less academic because at least I maybe graduated 10 years back. And at that time, it was mostly the curriculum was maybe old, and then the kind of teaching which was prevalent was more classroom type. So I would rather have more experiential learning rather than just sticking to the classroom and following some curriculum which was created maybe another 25 years back.
Plus one to that. I would do the same. I think very clearly experiential learning is definitely emerging as the trend of the day. Arjun, Anson? Nothing?
You should answer.
Well, I created a list of things that I wanted to learn. So I would create my own curriculum. I've had the privilege of learning from some of the best professors around, but yet, if I were asked, would I go back and do that? My answer would be no, because there are so many things to learn. So one of the things is, for example, I was just thinking, and as Arjun said that, it struck me back. That is one of the first things I want to learn, because there's so much to read, so much to learn. What's the most important skill? Speed reading. I just need to know speed reading, because speed reading is, and it's a learnable skill, by the way. You can't read faster than 200 words, 240 words, because you are reading only at the pace of which you speak. So I mean, I don't want to get into that, but if you do speed reading, you can devour 5 times more than what you can at the current speed. Okay, that's one thing. I mean, how do I build my intuition? I mean, that's very, very important to me. How do I build a sense of humor? These are all learnable things, by the way. How do you build execution? You know, we sometimes, because we're young people, we just think it's about working hard and, you know, working 20 hours and then we become like headless chickens. You know, you just do so many things. But you realize that, hey, how do the best people execute? That's a very different thing. They have different techniques for this. These are all learnable. So I had created my own curriculum. So what I would do is, you know, what I would love to do is just for all of you to go back and say, what are the things, what would be the ideal world for me? What would be my dream world? I know, what are all the things I would love to know? Just create that and then say, who are the best in the world on this? And then I'm sure you'll find a way. They might have written a book, they might have put up a video, they might have done something, and just go and pick that up and read it and learn that. And that's what I would have done if I were your age. I still do that today, by the way. So.
Yes, still don't know what I would change.
I wouldn't know because you're already a CEO, so no, it doesn't matter.
Not really. I wasn't in college, so I never used to attend class, and maybe that's what I'll change. Maybe I'll just go to class and maybe study some stuff and really.
I feel like we should have audited this.
Maybe I'll do that.
For this and all, you're applauding.
I'm sorry, I'm setting a really bad example, but that's really what I'll do, because I think I missed out going in there, and I had to do a lot of that stuff outside of college. I think tools that we have today of aggregated content and learning paths are so fascinating that give you that focus to learn what you want. I think stuff like that can be leveraged. So is maybe technology as part of your process of learning is something that would be different, but yeah, going to college would be the first thing.
He says it's important, guys. He says. Okay, with that then, I know we have 6 minutes. Can we see a show of hands for questions? I know there was a question here. Okay, so be ready with your mics and we'll get to each of you. We'll start with the gentleman in white.
Hello, good morning, sir. Good evening, sir.
How? Nicely done.
Sir, as Anson sir and Arjun sir highlighted the importance of exposure. So, sir, I would like to, get a key factors that, I should follow to select the domain that I could go on to the next, go on to the next learning domain that I would shortlist. Since there are so many things to learn, how can I prioritize it?
Oh, Anson, it's like the next level that you spoke of in the morning. No.
Well, I would not overthink that. The first thing that I would do is just create a list of all the things I want to learn. That's all. Just create that list. Forget about how, forget about the restrictions and limitations you have. Just put that down. That's the first thing. And then, put some criteria which of this is easily accessible to me right now? Which of this is cheaper for me right now? Which of it will take me only 2 hours to learn? Whatever works for you in that sense. And then I would just start with one. Don't make it like super algorithmic and, make it perfect. Just start with one. And then you do that for, 10 days and you realize, it's not as interesting as I thought. And I move to the next. But just don't sit idle. That's all. But as you do it, you're thinking about, don't be mindless about anything that you do. That's all I'm asking. Just think through what you're doing. Say, is this helping me? Is this, where you're wanting to head? Is this taking me there in some form? I'm learning something that's what I would do. And that's where I'd start off.
And I think there's also a little bit to be said about the great conversations that you can have when you've done so many different things. And it talks to the storytelling and persuasion that we know. You have so much rich knowledge. Remember, we had a question about creative thinking in the morning. How do I get creative? Sometimes it's just about drawing parallels from your experience. So go big and go wide.
If I could just add one thing to that, I'm not kidding you. Maybe a few years, many, many years after I passed out of college, I had nothing to talk about. It's when I started getting involved in art and science and design and all kinds of things, which was so much more later in my life, that I finally had something to talk about. And if you will start that right now, it just makes you more wholesome as an individual, so much more so.
Yes.
Sir, there might be a similar answer, but the question is, as you mentioned, the art of knowing where to stop. So my question is, suppose consider a scenario that there are 10 dishes in front of us, and we have tasted none of them. So I may taste all 10 and then decide which is the best for me. As you mentioned, you need to choose the best for yourself. Now, in today's world, there are millions of billions of such resources, in terms of resources, thinking in terms of resources. So, means where to stop? Means you can always get a better one or the best one. So,
So where to stop or where to start?
where to
To
stop?
stop.
Yeah. Where to stop means exploring. Life is all about learning, but there,
You want
you
to stop
can't
somewhere.
ever be hungry.
Stop.
You need to stop somewhere.
Stop when you have only 4 hours left and you have to sleep. Stop then. You know, I mean,
Get some sleep.
but
I would say best is very subjective. Anything which is good enough for you, you should stop there. My similar analogy to that is, say, looking for some good T-shirts on e-commerce website. They can just keep going on and on, but
Yeah.
you stop somewhere whenever you feel that you've just found the right one for you. Because again, that might not be the best, because best, as I said, is
Yeah.
subjective. So you just stop whenever you feel you've found something which is just the right one for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good answer. Exactly. So it depends on your resources, right? So how much can you sort of consume? One thing is that you can't stop learning, right? You have to continue that process. And taking the learning that you're going through a learning path, say going through a course, how will you sort of translate it to an experiment? And one of the things that I learned from my CTO is that he's very good at taking stuff and experimenting, doing it, and having an outcome, right? More than just saying this is in theory and this is what this research paper said and that research paper said. But do it and sort of use models, figure it out. That sort of makes you stop at this level and start at this level, and then you'll stop and go back here. So there's only so much you can do here, right? That has a capacity too. And you'll start zoning in into a particular place or area. Now, when you shift gears and go to another area, there's only so much you can do there. That is a byproduct. It'll come too, man. You won't be consumed by it, because you're doing something in pieces, and you'll do it well by paralleling it with experimenting and learning and experimenting. So just don't do the learning piece and continue learning there, and then that's it. Because if you're not going to translate it, then your learning is never going to realize its material effect. That's really important.
So I've been told we have time for 2 more questions, but our guests will be here for the evening, so you can always ask them. Okay, shall we just go with the mics? Yeah.
My question is to Anson. I wanted to know how you could deal with imposter syndrome. So the feeling of...
deal with what,
It's
sorry?
Imposter syndrome.
Okay. Should I explain what that is?
Just explain what you mean by that.
Okay.
I mean, is it the
versions.
fact that... Sorry, just go for it. Yeah.
So the feeling of, like, even if you've got something good, that you don't deserve it, or just the feeling of not being good enough for something.
I have always felt that. And
I
let me
also-
tell you,
I'm sorry.
I had the privilege of studying in one of the best universities in the world. Even then, I felt the same thing. Because, you come out of that, you think, you are too cool for school. Everybody is like, they've not studied as much. You have all these thoughts. And then what do? You take a really good job, right? And then when you take that job, what happens? Oh, there are 50 other people who've just studied like you. And then again, you will always feel that. So I think what is important is not for you to compete with the others. That's when you start having this thing. You got to be the best version of yourself. What is it that I want to do? And am I doing that? Am I focusing on that direction? Because when you know what you want to do, and you might not know that at 20, there are some people who are privileged to know that at 20, and they've just hit their calling and they're on it. But some find that out at 40, and tough luck. I found that out very, very late in life. So when you know what is it that you want to do, and then you're on that track, and you want to be the best version of that, you'll be okay. You're not okay when you don't know what you want. So then you think you want what she wants, you think what you want what he wants, and that's when the struggle and the turmoil begins.
I would
Good
also
question.
add one thing. I think when we look for external validation, when we get too fixated on external validation, I think that is when imposter syndrome kicks in more strongly. So I think stop looking for that. Just assume that you're good enough, and you do not want 10 other people to say that you're good to feel great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last question for the day is yours.
Hansen sir was talking about coming out of the comfort zone and working according to our interests. And Sikamam was talking about iterative process where we are courageous and we keep learning new things. We jump from one field to other field during our career. But will there be a situation where we are frustrated of working continuously without any gap? Our interest keeps changing and we are always out of the comfort zone. We are always falling off the cliff and then hanging onto a branch again, continuing the journey from there. Won't it be frustrating doing that continuously?
Like a burnout, you mean?
Yeah.
42.5% of corporate India or the world, I don't know, is clinically depressed. By the way, that's a serious fact.
Very, very seriously.
It's a very serious fact. And we don't have enough support to understand what that means. And it happens to us in our day-to-day lives, but we just don't know how to deal with it. So, yeah, it is frustrating. And that's why I brought this point about. It's cool to, look at, I'll give you a parallel, Shah Rukh Khan and Tom Cruise and say, I want to be an actor. But the grueling path to be that actor is just killing, right? But you can be that actor. You can be that startup, which is the Flipkart of the world, the InMobi of the world, and be that unicorn. But the truth is that they are the outliers. Just look at the statistics. They are the outliers. But all of us, I'm a startup entrepreneur, want to be that unicorn. So we're going through that grueling path. But the sensible guys know what the stop is, right? You're knowing how to pace yourselves. And that's a choice that you make. And that choice can be the death of you if you don't know how to deal with it. So you need to know all these sort of paths, visualize these paths, pivots, changes, these things that you can't even imagine encountering. Encounter them visually. Go through that process. And you'll be a little more equipped to deal with it. And yes, I have seen people burn out in front of me. I have seen colleagues of mine be diagnosed clinically depressed, right? And they've come out of it and they're functioning beautifully now, and we didn't give up on them, right? So that part is really important. So when you're going through that journey and you're pivoting and it's frustrating and you're sort of dipping, I've been there, right? It's not wrong. It's real. That's the real world. Nobody signed up to the world saying it's going to be a great place, right? It's going to be this, and you got to make it great. You got to put all your heart and mind into it and figure out what your calling is. And that's going to take dips in that journey. So that's the truth.
So I burnt out in my life. This was, I think, a decade ago or something. I burnt out, completely burnt out. And I burnt out when my career was zooming like this. I was getting promotions before I asked for it. That happens very rare. So zooming like that, and I burnt out. The reason that we burn out is because everything that you're doing well and you're not supposed to be necessarily doing. When you know what is it that you're really needing to do, what is it that you're really called to do, you're suddenly in that place where you're cruising. And when you're not, even if you're doing well, you can feel that jar inside of you. Something is jarring inside of you, and that's when the burnout happens. So even today, you can find out what you're strong at. You've heard of Strengths Finder by Gallup? You know that? That'll at least give you direction. It might not be completely accurate, but at least it tells you, hey, what are some of the strengths that you are really good at? And that doesn't change too much over time. So then find things that you will do where you're naturally strong at anyways. Then the jarring reduces, frustration reduces, all of these things start to reduce. Some people start figuring that out when they're 40. So I burnt out, now I want to figure it out. By the way, burnout was the best thing that happened to me because that's when I really woke up and decided what I really want to do, which was the most beautiful thing that could have happened. But you don't have to go through the burnout for that. You can do some of those things to find out what you're good at when you are 20. And then the chances of this frustrations are much lesser, all right?
And take that holiday you will keep postponing.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Plan your next holiday when you go to this holiday. Anyway, that's all the time we have. We know you have questions, but our panel will be around for a while. What an amazing conversation that was. What an amazing panel. Thank you so much for your time.